What if everything you know collapses tomorrow? Governments fall, chaos spreads, and your future is shattered. The Simpsons warned us, and it's happening now. Countries like Bangladesh, Syria, and Afghanistan have seen governments topple just as predicted. Protests are growing in Iran, France, and even Israel or US.
America can't collapse.
Are more countries about to collapse, even in China and Russia? But that's just the start. What if cryptocurrencies crash? Imagine weather becoming a weapon, like cloud seeding. We are finally getting into the World War III.
Wake up, everybody! It's World War III!
In this video, we'll reveal the terrifying predictions the Simpsons got right. A future we may not be ready for. Number 10. Brain implants. Let's start with something truly chilling with real possibility. Brain implants. In an episode of The Simpsons from the early 2000s, we saw people getting brain implants to enhance their minds and communicate through thoughts alone. Sounds like something from a sci-fi movie, right? But what if this technology becomes real? Companies are already working on developing brain-machine interfaces that could allow humans to control computers with just their minds. But what happens if this technology is used for control, surveillance, and manipulation? Imagine walking down the street and someone scanning you, not just observing your thoughts, but influencing them too. This isn't just science fiction anymore. If we don't stay vigilant, this could be our reality tomorrow. And that's not all. Wait till you hear about what happens when resources become scarce. Number 9. Flying cars. The Simpsons predicted a future with flying cars. But should we really be excited about it? Companies are already testing them, and in the next year, they could be soaring through city skies. But imagine the chaos. Traffic jams in the air, drones everywhere, and only the wealthy having access while the rest of us stay grounded. Roads are dangerous enough. What happens when we add flying cars to the mix? How many crashes will it take before we realize this might be more trouble than it's worth? Could the sky become a playground for the rich, while the rest of us are left behind in the ground? Number 8. Resource wars. As the world's resources running out, wars over essentials like water, oil, and land are becoming more likely. The Simpsons predicted this, where countries fight over the basics: water, oil, and land. And it's already happening. Droughts are hitting Africa, and countries like Turkey and Syria are clashing over water. Imagine a world where survival depends on what your country controls. Food shortages, water scarcity, and land wars could spark brutal conflicts. As resources run out, what happens when nations fight for the last of everything? What will we do when cities break into conflict over the last drop of water? And that's just the start. What happens if economies collapse? Keep watching. Number 7. Economic collapse. We can't ignore the massive shift in our global economy. Cryptocurrencies are crashing, and social credit systems are being put in place. The Simpsons warned us about a world where social status decides survival, and we're seeing it now. Cryptos, like Bitcoin, are already fluctuating, and their collapse could trigger a financial crisis. Meanwhile, China is implementing social credit scores, tracking your every move, online behavior, finances, even interactions. Soon, we might live in a world where your every move is tracked, and your economic survival depends on your social compliance. This isn't a distant future. It's happening now. Are we ready for a world where our worth is determined by a number? And that's not all. Have you ever considered what would happen if machines start to control everything? Number 6. Superhuman AI. Imagine a world where machines are no longer just tools, but superior intellects. Superhuman AI, that's what The Simpsons warned us about. What if we create an AI so advanced, so intelligent, that it starts to outthink us, control us, and even replace us? We've seen AI achieve near-human abilities, But what happens when it gets smarter than its creators? The rise of superhuman AI isn't a sci-fi fantasy. It's a looming threat. Companies are already developing AI that can learn and adapt far faster than any human. Imagine a world where machines run the government, control the economy, and manage wars. Do we really want a future where AI, not humans, holds the power to decide life and death? Number 5. AI and robotics. Let's take it a step further. AI rebellion and AI-controlled warfare. What if the robots we've created to serve us turn on us? In The Simpsons, we saw a world where AI systems turned against humanity. Fast forward to today, and AI is already being used in military applications. Drones, robots, and autonomous weapons could one day fight our wars. But what happens when these machines decide they no longer want to serve? Imagine an army of machines fighting not for us, but for themselves. Could we face a future where the very technology we've created to protect us is used against us in a terrifying war of machines versus humanity? Number 4. Weaponized weather. Now let's talk about something that might sound straight out of a disaster movie, but is already happening in real life. Weaponized weather. This isn't science fiction. Cloud seeding is already being used today, like in Dubai, where it turns dry desert land into rain-filled oases. By injecting particles into the clouds, they can generate rainfall where it's desperately needed. But what if this technology gets weaponized? But here's the terrifying part. What if this technology is weaponized? Imagine governments or corporations controlling the weather to punish rivals or cause natural disasters like floods and droughts. The idea of weather being used as a weapon is terrifying and closer to reality than we think. Could we wake up to storms engineered to destroy entire cities or countries? A prediction The Simpsons made that's more real than we think. In the future, we could see hurricanes, floods, and storms used as weapons of war, directed at enemy nations, or even used to destabilize political regimes. Could the weather itself become a weapon of mass destruction? The devastating effects of climate change are already pushing the world to its limits. But cloud seeding and geoengineering could open up a dangerous new frontier of manipulation. Imagine waking up one day to a storm that wasn't just natural. It was engineered to destroy a city, or even an entire country. How do we fight back when the weather itself becomes our enemy? Can you imagine waking up to a storm created to destroy an entire city? The future is closer than you think. Want to learn more about cloud seeding and its potential dangers? Drop 20 comments saying cloud seeding below, and we'll explore it in our next video. Stay tuned. Number 3. Political instability. We're seeing it all over the world. Political instability is shaking countries around the world, just like The Simpsons predicted. Governments are falling because of corruption and conflict. Take Bangladesh, for example. Massive protests led to the government changing. In Syria, public unrest eventually led to the fall of the government, triggering a brutal civil war. In Afghanistan, after the US left, the Taliban quickly took control, overthrowing a democratically elected government. And we're seeing protests in many countries like Iran and France, where people are rising up against their leaders. What happens when the system you rely on starts to crumble? What if the government you trust falls apart? The unrest we're seeing today could quickly spread to other countries, leading to more political chaos. Could we be heading towards more governments changing or even collapsing as people fight for change? The world is already on edge and things could get worse. Is the world on the brink of chaos? Let's see what happens next. Number 2. Collapse of democracy. What if democracy, the very system that gives us freedom, collapses entirely? The Simpsons predicted the collapse of democracy, and it's a terrifying thought. We're already witnessing the breakdown of democratic systems. Corruption, rigged elections, and the breakdown of social trust are just the beginning. What happens when citizens no longer trust their governments? What happens when the foundation of democracy crumbles, leaving a void filled by chaos and violence? We could be entering a future where the fight for freedom becomes the fight for survival. As the lines between truth and lies blur, we must ask, how much longer before democracy becomes a thing of the past? If democracy falls, what will rise in its place? The final prediction is coming soon. Number 1. World War III. Finally, let's talk about the most terrifying possibility, the rise of totalitarianism and the onset of World War III. In The Simpsons, we see a world where power-hungry leaders rise to control everything, from the media to our daily lives. What happens when democracy completely fails and a single entity or group takes total control of the world? This is where the rise of totalitarianism begins, and it leads to nothing less than World War III. The fragility of global peace today is staggering. Nations are already on edge. Political polarization is at an all-time high, and the world's resources are running thin. Could we see a world torn apart by a war that will redefine humanity? The signs are already there. Tensions are rising between powerful nations. We might just be one crisis away from the kind of conflict that could change everything. The future is unfolding right before our eyes, just as The Simpsons predicted. Governments are falling, technology is spiraling out of control, and the world is on the brink of chaos. Will we stand by and watch as our future slips away? Or will we take action, stay informed, and prepare for what's to come? Don't let the predictions come true without you being ready. Subscribe, share this video, and stay alert, because the future is closer than we think. Time is running out. Will you be ready?